The city was burning hot that afternoon. Not with fire, but with the kind of heat that makes your shirt stick to your back and your feet hurt inside your worn-out shoes. 12-year-old Marcus pressed himself against the cool brick wall of the bakery, watching people rush past like he didn't exist. And to them, he didn't. Marcus had been invisible for 3 years now. Not the magic kind of invisible you read about in books. The real kind. The kind where people look right through you because you're dirty, because you sleep on cardboard, because your green shirt has holes in it and your brown pants are 2 sizes too big. His stomach growled like an angry dog. He hadn't eaten since yesterday morning, when the restaurant owner threw out some old bread. Marcus closed his eyes and imagined a hot meal. Rice, chicken, maybe some thud. His eyes snapped open. Across the street, a woman in a beautiful purple dress had fallen. Not tripped, not stumbled. Fallen like a puppet whose strings had been cut. Her silver purse scattered across the sidewalk, spilling papers and pens everywhere. Her body lay completely still on the hot concrete. People walked around her. Marcus couldn't believe it. A woman was lying on the ground, and people were stepping over her like she was a puddle of water. One man in a fancy suit actually checked his watch and walked faster. "Hey!" Marcus shouted, but his voice was small. Nobody turned. His heart hammered in his chest. Something was very, very wrong. The woman's face was pale, almost gray. Her eyes were closed. She wasn't moving at all. Marcus looked left, looked right, waited for someone, anyone, to help. Nobody stopped. And suddenly, Marcus realized something that made his blood run cold. To these people rushing past in their clean clothes and expensive shoes, this woman was invisible too. Maybe because they were scared. Maybe because they were too busy. Maybe because helping someone means stopping your whole day. And nobody wants to do that. But Marcus knew what invisible felt like. And he wouldn't wish it on anybody. His feet moved before his brain could stop them. He ran across the street, dodging a taxi that honked angrily at him. He dropped to his knees beside the woman, his hands shaking. Ma'am, can you hear me?" His voice cracked. Nothing. He put his ear close to her mouth, like he'd seen on TV once. She was breathing, but barely. Each breath sounded wet and wrong, like she was drowning in air. "Somebody help." Marcus screamed. "Please. She needs a doctor." A few people glanced over, then looked away. Marcus felt panic rising in his throat like water. His hand scrambled through the scattered contents of her purse, searching for a phone. There, a fancy smartphone with a cracked screen. He grabbed it and tried to unlock it. Password protected. No, Marcus whispered. His fingers were trembling so badly he could barely hold it. Then he saw something else glinting in the sunlight. A key, but not a normal key. This one was gold and strange-looking, with patterns carved into it that Marcus had never seen before. It was attached to a small tag that said, "Penthouse Royal Towers." Rich people stuff. Marcus shoved it in his pocket and focused on what mattered. The woman's breathing was getting slower. "Help! Somebody, please." Marcus's voice broke completely now. Tears burned his eyes. "She's dying. Can't you see? She's dying." Finally, a shopkeeper poked his head out from a nearby store. He was a round man with a gray beard, wearing a red apron. "What's all this shouting about?" he grumbled. "She collapsed. She needs an ambulance." "Please, sir, please." Marcus begged. The shopkeeper hesitated. Marcus could see it in his eyes, that moment where he almost walked away, almost decided this wasn't his problem, almost became just another person who saw nothing. But then the man looked at the woman's gray face. "Stay with her," he said, and disappeared back into his shop. Marcus grabbed the woman's hand. It was cold, too cold for such a hot day. "Hold on," he whispered to her. "Help is coming. Just hold on." Her fingers twitched slightly in his grip. She was still fighting. 2 minutes felt like 2 hours. Then Marcus heard the most beautiful sound in the world. Sirens. The ambulance pulled up with flashing lights. 2 paramedics in blue uniforms jumped out with a stretcher and a big medical bag. "Good job, kid," the female paramedic said as they worked quickly, checking the woman's pulse. putting an oxygen mask on her face. You might have saved her life. Marcus's legs felt like jelly. Is she going to be okay? We're taking her to Memorial Hospital. You did good. The paramedics lifted her onto the stretcher with practiced ease. Wait! Marcus called. Can I come with you? The male paramedic looked at Marcus's dirty clothes and hesitated. She's alone, Marcus said quickly. She doesn't have anybody. Please, I won't be any trouble. The female paramedic's face softened. Get in. Marcus climbed into the back of the ambulance, his heart still racing. The doors slammed shut, and they took off with sirens wailing. Inside, it smelled like medicine and plastic. The woman lay strapped to the stretcher, the oxygen mask fogging with each shallow breath. Machines beeped and flashed. The paramedics worked with quick, sure movements, sticking needles in her arm and wrapping a blood pressure cuff around her. Marcus pressed himself into the corner, trying to stay out of the way. He kept his hand near hers, not quite touching, but close enough that she'd know someone was there. The ambulance swayed as it turned corners fast. Through the small window, Marcus could see the city blurring past. Pulses weak, the male paramedic said into his radio. Female, approximately 55 years old, possible cardiac event. ETA 4 minutes. For minutes until the hospital. For minutes to hold on. Marcus found himself praying to a God he wasn't sure listened to kids like him. Kids with no home. Kids with no family. Kids nobody saw. But maybe, just maybe, God saw everybody. What's your name, son? The female paramedic asked gently. Marcus. You're very brave, Marcus. He didn't feel brave. He felt terrified. But he didn't let go of his spot near the woman. The ambulance screeched to a stop. The back doors flew open, and suddenly everything was movement and noise. Doctors and nurses in white and green surrounded the stretcher, shouting medical words Marcus didn't understand. 12-year-old male found her collapsed, the paramedic explained. He called for help. They wheeled the woman through automatic doors that said emergency in big red letters. Marcus tried to follow, but a security guard in a black uniform held up his hand. Sorry, kid. Family only beyond this point. But Family. Only. The doors closed, and just like that, she was gone. Marcus stood in the bright hospital lobby, suddenly feeling very small and very alone. People rushed everywhere. Doctors with stethoscopes, nurses carrying clipboards, visitors holding flowers and balloons. The floor was so shiny he could see his reflection. He looked terrible. Dirt smudged his face. His green shirt was soaked with sweat. His hands were scraped from the concrete. But in his pocket, he felt the weight of that strange golden key. He had saved someone today. Someone important. He didn't know who she was, but he knew this. She mattered. Her life mattered. And for the first time in 3 years, Marcus felt like maybe, just maybe, he mattered too. He found a plastic chair in the corner of the waiting room and sat down. He wasn't going anywhere. Not until he knew she was okay. Even if it took all night. Even if it took forever. Because nobody should be invisible. Not even him. Marcus woke up with his cheek pressed against cold plastic. For a confused second, he didn't know where he was. Then he remembered the hospital, the woman. He sat up fast, his neck aching from sleeping in the weird position. The waiting room clock said 6:47 a.m. He'd been here all night. Early morning light filtered through the big windows. A janitor pushed a mop across the shiny floor. A few tired-looking people sat scattered in chairs, holding coffee cups and staring at nothing. Marcus's stomach growled, so loud he was sure everyone heard it. He pressed his hand against his belly, trying to make it stop. When was the last time he'd eaten? Yesterday morning? The day before? Excuse me, young man. Marcus jumped. A nurse stood in front of him, wearing pink scrubs and a kind smile. She had warm brown skin, and her name tag said Angela. Are you Marcus? She asked. His heart leaped. Yes. Is she okay? The lady I came in with. Nurse Angela's smile grew wider. She's awake, and she's asking for you. Marcus couldn't believe it. Really? Me? Really you? Come on. She gestured for him to follow. They walked through those automatic doors the security guard wouldn't let him pass last night. The hallway smelled like cleaning supplies and medicine. Marcus's old shoes squeaked on the polished floor. He felt so out of place here, with his dirty clothes and messy hair. They stopped at room 304. Through the small window in the door, Marcus could see her, the woman in the purple dress, now wearing a hospital gown, sitting up in bed. Machines beeped softly beside her, and 4-tube ran into her arm. But her eyes were open, and they were sharp and intelligent, taking everything in. "Go ahead," Nurse Angela said gently. "She won't bite." Marcus pushed open the door slowly. The woman turned her head and looked right at him, really looked at him. Not through him, not past him, but at him, like he was a real person, like he mattered. "You're the boy," she said. Her voice was quiet but strong. "You saved my life." Marcus shuffled his feet. I called for help. That's all. That's all." She shook her head slightly. "The doctors told me I had a heart attack. Right there on the street. They said if I hadn't gotten here when I did." She didn't finish the sentence, but Marcus understood. She could have died. "Everyone else walked past me," the woman continued, her eyes glistening. "But you stopped. You, a child, did what grown adults wouldn't do." Marcus didn't know what to say. His throat felt tight. "What's your name?" she asked. "Marcus, ma'am." "Marcus." She said it like she was tasting the word. "I'm Victoria Chun, and I owe you everything." She paused. "Where are your parents, Marcus?" "I'd like to thank them, too." The question hit Marcus like a punch. I don't have parents. Not anymore." Victoria's face changed. Understanding flooded her eyes. She looked at his clothes, really looked at them, the holes, the dirt, the shoes held together with duct tape. "You live on the streets," she said softly. It wasn't a question. Marcus nodded, feeling his face burn with shame. But Victoria didn't look disgusted. She didn't look sorry for him either. She looked thoughtful. "How long?" she asked. 3 years. Since I was 9. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached over to the small table beside her bed and picked up a business card. It was thick and expensive looking, with gold lettering. "Marcus, I want you to have this." She held it out to him. He took it carefully. The card said, "Victoria Chun, founder and CEO, Phoenix Enterprises." "Phoenix Enterprises is my company," Victoria explained. "I built it from nothing, just like you're trying to survive from nothing. I know what it's like to have the whole world against you." She looked directly into his eyes. "I also know potential when I see it. And Marcus, you have something most people never find, courage." Marcus stared at the card, his hands shaking. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because I believe in paying debts. You gave me my life back. Now I want to give you something back, a chance." Victoria pressed a button, and her hospital bed whirred as it raised her up a bit more. "I'm not offering charity, Marcus. I'm offering opportunity. If you're willing to work hard, to learn, to become more than what the city has told you you are, I can help you." It sounded too good to be true. Marcus had learned that when things sound too good to be true, they usually are. "Why would you help me?" he asked suspiciously. "You don't even know me." "You're right, I don't know you," Victoria agreed. "But I know what you did, and actions tell me more about a person than words ever could." She smiled slightly. "Besides, I have more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. What good is wealth if you can't use it to change someone's life?" Marcus felt tears trying to come, but he blinked them back hard. "What do I have to do? First, you rest. Nurse Angela tells me you slept in that waiting room all night worrying about me. Second, you eat. I'm guessing you're hungry?" Marcus's stomach answered for him with a loud gurgle. Victoria laughed, and it was a warm sound. "Thought so. Third, you wait for me to get out of this hospital. The doctors say I need to stay another day or 2 for observation." She pointed to the card in his hand. "That has my personal number on the back. In 3 days, call that number. Someone will pick you up and bring you to my office. We'll talk about your future." "My future?" Marcus repeated. The words felt strange in his mouth. He'd never had a future before. Just today, just surviving until tomorrow. Your future, Victoria confirmed. Now go get some breakfast. Tell them to charge it to my room. Marcus walked toward the door in a daze. Then he remembered something and turned back. Miss Chen, I have your key. The gold one from your purse. He pulled it from his pocket. Should I give it back now? Victoria's eyes widened slightly. You kept it safe all this time? Yes, ma'am. Hold on to it for now, she said. Bring it when you come to my office. Consider it a promise between us. Marcus closed his fist around the key. I'll keep it safe. I know you will, Marcus. I trust you. Those words hit him harder than anything. Someone trusted him. Someone saw him. He was invisible no more. The next 3 days were the longest of Marcus's life. He called the number on the card from a pay phone, his hands sweating. A woman with a professional voice answered and told him a car would pick him up at the corner of 5th and Main at 2 p.m. Marcus spent the morning washing in the public bathroom at the park, scrubbing his face and hands until they were raw. He couldn't do much about his clothes, but he tried to brush off the worst of the dirt. At 1:45 p.m., he stood on the corner, nervous energy making his legs bounce. At exactly 2 p.m., a sleek black car pulled up, not a taxi or a regular car. This was the kind of car Marcus had only seen in movies. Shiny, expensive. A man in a gray suit stepped out from the driver's side. Marcus, the driver asked. Yes, sir. Ms. Chun is expecting you. Please get in. Marcus slid into the back seat, and his breath caught. The seats were soft leather, tan-colored, and so comfortable he almost sank into them. The car smelled like new things and possibility. There was a mini fridge, actual bottles of water. The dashboard looked like a spaceship control panel. This was how rich people lived. The drive took 20 minutes through parts of the city Marcus had never seen. They passed tall buildings made of glass that reflected the clouds. They drove through neighborhoods where the trees were big and green, where kids played in yards with actual grass. Finally, they pulled up to a building so tall Marcus had to lean his head way back to see the top. Gold letters spelled out, Phoenix Enterprises. We're here, the driver said, opening Marcus's door for him. Marcus stepped out onto the sidewalk, clutching Victoria's business card like a lifeline. The building's glass doors opened automatically as he approached, and cold air conditioning washed over him. The lobby was massive, marble floors, a fountain in the center, people in expensive suits walking quickly, talking on phones, carrying briefcases. Everyone looked important. Everyone looked like they belonged. Everyone except Marcus. Marcus. A familiar voice called. Victoria Chin walked toward him, and Marcus almost didn't recognize her. She wasn't in a hospital gown anymore. She wore a sharp navy blue suit and heels that clicked on the marble floor. Her black hair was pulled back neat and perfect. She looked powerful, like she owned the world. But her smile was the same warm smile from the hospital. You came, she said. You asked me to, Marcus replied simply. Victoria's smile grew. Come with me. We have much to discuss. They rode an elevator to the 35th floor, the top floor. Victoria's office was bigger than any room Marcus had ever seen. One whole wall was windows overlooking the entire city. He could see everything from up here, the buildings, the streets, the tiny cars moving like toys. Sit. Victoria gestured to a chair in front of her huge wooden desk. Marcus sat carefully, afraid he might break something. Victoria sat across from him and folded her hands. Marcus, I've been thinking about you for 3 days. About your courage, about what it took for you to help a stranger when no one else would. She paused. I want to offer you something, but I need you to understand this isn't a handout. This is an investment. In you. What kind of investment? Marcus asked carefully. Education, training, mentorship. Victoria stood and walked the window. I'm going to teach you everything I know about business, about money, about how to turn ideas into reality. I'm going to give you tools, a place to stay, food to eat, clothes to wear, access to schools and teachers. But in return, you have to promise me something. What? Victoria turned to face him, and her eyes were serious. Promise me that when you succeed, and you will succeed, Marcus, you'll remember where you came from. You'll help others the way I'm helping you. You'll use what you learned to make the world better, not just yourself richer. Marcus thought about the streets, about the other kids out there, sleeping in alleys, going hungry, being invisible. I promise, he said, and he meant it with every piece of his heart. Victoria smiled, and it was like the sun coming out. Then, welcome to Phoenix Enterprises, Marcus. Let's change your life. She handed him something across the desk. A laptop, sleek, silver, and brand new. This is yours, Victoria said. Your first tool. Idea is the most valuable thing in the world, Marcus. And now you have a way to make yours real. Marcus stared at the laptop, then at Victoria, then back at the laptop. His hands were shaking as he opened it. The screen glowed to life, bright and full of possibility. And Marcus realized something that made his heart soar. His new life was just beginning. 6 months later, Marcus stood in front of a mirror in his new apartment and barely recognized himself. The boy staring back wore clean black pants and a crisp white shirt. His hair was cut neat and tidy. His face was healthy, no longer hollow from hunger. But the biggest change wasn't what Marcus saw. It was what he felt. He felt possible. Every morning at 7 a.m., a car picked him up and brought him to Phoenix Enterprises. Not to Victoria's office, but to a special floor she'd set up just for him. A learning space filled with books, computers, and tutors who taught him everything from math to science to business. Good morning, Marcus. His tutor, Mr. Reynolds, greeted him as he walked in. Mr. Reynolds was a patient man with gray hair who wore bow ties in different colors. Today's was orange. Morning, Mr. Reynolds, Marcus said, setting down his backpack. Ready for today's lesson? Mr. Reynolds asked. We're going to talk about something very important. How to identify problems that need solving. Marcus pulled out his laptop and opened it. Over the past 6 months, this laptop had become his best friend. He'd learned to code on it, to research on it, to create presentations and spreadsheets and designs. Victoria always says the best businesses solve real problems, Marcus said. Exactly right. Mr. Reynolds pulled up a chair. So let's think. What problems do you see in the world? What needs fixing? Marcus didn't even have to think. Homeless kids, he said immediately. Kids living on the streets like I did. They need food, shelter, education. But more than that, they need to feel like they matter, like someone sees them. Mr. Reynolds nodded slowly. That's a powerful problem to solve. And you understand it better than anyone because you lived it. He leaned forward. So here's your challenge, Marcus. I want you to design something, an app, a program, a system, that could help street children. You have 3 weeks. Use everything you've learned. Make it real. 3 weeks later, Marcus walked into the big conference room on the 30th floor. His heart hammered against his ribs. 20 people sat around the huge table. Business executives, investors, and Victoria herself at the head of the table in a stunning red suit. Ladies and gentlemen, Victoria announced, this is Marcus Chun. Marcus still wasn't used to the name. Victoria had legally adopted him 2 months ago. He was Marcus Chun now, not just Marcus the street kid. He had a last name. He belonged to someone. Marcus has been working on a project, Victoria continued. I've asked you all here because I believe in what he's created. Marcus, the floor is yours. Marcus took a deep breath and plugged his laptop into the big screen on the wall. His presentation lit up. Safe Harbor, a support network for homeless youth. His voice shook at first, but then grew stronger. 3 million kids in this country have no home, no family, no hope. I was one of them. He clicked to the next slide, showing a map. Safe Harbor is an app that connects street kids with resources, shelters, food banks, free medical clinics, job training, and education programs. But it's more than just information. He clicked again. It creates a community. Kids can message mentors safely. They can report dangerous areas. They can find other kids who understand what they're going through. And most importantly, Marcus looked directly at the investors. It helps businesses and donors see exactly where their help is needed most. For the next 20 minutes, Marcus explained his idea. He showed mock-ups of the app. He presented research and statistics. He talked about the technology needed and the estimated costs. When he finished, the room was silent. Then a woman, in a green dress, started clapping. Then another person joined. Then another. Soon the whole room was applauding. One investor, a tall man with silver beard, stood up. "Young man, that was the most compelling pitch I've heard in 30 years. I'm in. How much do you need?" By the end of that meeting, Marcus had secured $2 million in funding. $2 million. He walked out of the conference room in a daze. Victoria was waiting in the hallway, her eyes shining with pride. "You did it," she said softly. "You took your pain and turned it into purpose." Marcus felt tears coming, and didn't stop them this time. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have," Victoria said firmly. "I just gave you tools. You had the courage and vision all along." She put her hand on his shoulder. "Now comes the hard part, actually building it. Are you ready?" "Yes," Marcus said. And he was. The next year was a whirlwind. Safe Harbor launched in 3 cities. News stations interviewed Marcus, the 13-year-old CEO changing lives. Magazine covers featured his story. But Marcus never let it go to his head. Every Saturday, he went back to the streets. Not to sleep there anymore, but to talk to the kids still living there. He handed out phones with Safe Harbor already installed. He told them about job programs and schools that would take them. He looked them in the eyes and said the words he'd needed to hear 3 years ago. "You matter. Someone sees you." One Saturday, he met a girl named Elena. She was 10 years old with tangled black hair and a torn yellow jacket. She sat against the wall, holding a cardboard sign that said, "Hungry. Please help." Marcus sat down next to her, not caring that his expensive jeans got dirty. "Hi," he said. "I'm Marcus." Elena looked at him suspiciously. "You a cop?" "No. I'm someone who used to sit exactly where you're sitting." He pulled out a granola bar from his backpack. "Hungry?" Elena grabbed it and ate like she hadn't seen food in days. She probably hadn't. "Elena," Marcus said gently, "how would you like to come with me? There's a place, a shelter connected to Safe Harbor. Hot meals, clean bed, teachers who can help you catch up on school. And nobody will hurt you there. I promise." Elena stopped chewing. "Why would you help me?" Marcus smiled. "Because someone helped me once. And now it's my turn to help you." Elena stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. That night, Marcus brought Elena to Hope House, the first Safe Harbor shelter. It had opened 3 months ago in a renovated building that used to be empty. Now it had beds for 50 kids, a kitchen, classrooms, and counselors. As Elena got settled into her new room, Marcus felt Victoria's presence behind him. "Another one saved," Victoria said quietly. "One of thousands who still need help," Marcus replied. "But it's a start." Victoria smiled. "You know, when I had that heart attack, I thought my life was ending. Turns out it was just beginning. For both of us." They stood together watching Elena eat a real dinner for probably the first time in months. 2 years later, Marcus was 15 and Safe Harbor operated in 20 cities. Hundreds of kids had found homes, jobs, and hope through the program. Marcus had been featured in Time magazine as one of the most influential teenagers in America. But his favorite moments weren't the awards or the recognition. They were the quiet moments, like today. Marcus walked through the garden of Victoria's private mansion. The house was huge, with rooms Marcus still hadn't explored. But his favorite spot was his garden, where flowers bloomed in every color and a fountain bubbled peacefully. Victoria sat on a bench under a willow tree, reading reports. She was fully recovered from her heart attack now, healthier than ever, but she'd slowed down, taken time to enjoy life more. Marcus sat beside her. "I've been thinking," he said. "That's usually when you come up with your best ideas," Victoria teased. "I want to expand Safe Harbor internationally. Kids in other countries need help too." Victoria set down her papers and looked at him with those sharp, intelligent eyes. "That's ambitious. It'll take years of work. Millions more in funding. Are you ready for that level of responsibility?" Marcus thought about the moment on the street when he'd seen Victoria collapse. He thought about the choice he'd made, to help instead of walking away. He thought about every child he'd met since then, every life changed, every future saved. "I'm ready," he said, "because I learned something from you, Victoria. Real wealth isn't money in a bank. It's the power to lift others up. It's using what you have to make sure nobody else has to feel invisible." Victoria's eyes glistened with tears. "You become everything I hoped you would be, Marcus, everything and more." They sat in comfortable silence, surrounded by flowers and sunshine. 3 years ago, Marcus had been a hungry, invisible boy on a hot street. Today, he was Marcus Chun, student, entrepreneur, advocate, and hope giver. He had a home, a family, a purpose, but most importantly, he had never forgotten where he came from. Safe Harbor continued to grow. By the time Marcus turned 18, the program operated in 40 countries and had helped over 50,000 children. He'd spoken at the United Nations. He'd met presidents and celebrities, but he still spent Saturdays on the streets, talking to kids who needed to hear that someone saw them. And whenever he told his story, to reporters, to students, to other people who wanted to change the world, he always started the same way. It began with a single act of courage on a hot afternoon. "I saw someone who needed help, and I decided to be the one who stopped." That decision changed 2 lives forever, hers and mine. It taught me that we all have the power to reshape reality, one brave choice at a time. The world is full of invisible people waiting to be seen, full of problems waiting to be solved, full of potential waiting to be unlocked. And it starts with you, with the choice to care, the choice to act, the choice to believe that one person can make a difference. Marcus always ended his speeches by looking directly at the audience and saying, "What will you do with your one wild, precious life? Who will you see that others walk past? What courage lives inside you, waiting to change the world?" Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait until you're older or richer or more ready. Start now. Start today. Start with one small act of kindness, because that's all it takes to change everything. Victoria watched from the audience as Marcus spoke at a massive conference in New York City. Thousands of people filled the auditorium, hanging on his every word. Her heart swelled with pride, not because he was famous or successful, but because he had kept his promise. He had used his success to lift others. After the speech, as people swarmed Marcus for photos and questions, Victoria slipped away quietly. She'd taught him everything she could. Now it was his turn to teach others. That night, back in her mansion, Victoria wrote in her journal, "Today I watched Marcus inspire thousands. I remember the scared, dirty boy who saved my life. I remember thinking he had potential, but I underestimated him. He didn't just have potential. He had something far more powerful, a heart that refused to walk past suffering. That one quality has changed more lives than all my money ever could." People ask me what my greatest accomplishment is. They expect me to talk about Phoenix Enterprises or my fortune. But my answer is always the same. My greatest accomplishment is Marcus. Not because I created him, but because I helped him become who he was always meant to be. And Marcus's greatest accomplishment? It's not Safe Harbor or the awards or the recognition. It's that he's teaching an entire generation that wealth means nothing if you don't use it to make others rich. Rich in hope, in opportunity, in dignity. Together, we prove something the world needed to see. That daylight can reveal improbable destinies. That a chance encounter can reshape reality. That courage and kindness, when combined, become unstoppable forces for good. Victoria closed her journal and looked out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, a child was sleeping on the street, invisible to the thousands passing by. But thanks to Marcus, there was an app on a phone that could change that child's life. Thanks to Marcus, there were shelters waiting with open doors. Thanks to Marcus, there were people who'd learned to stop and see and care. One brave boy had created a ripple that became a wave that became a movement. And it all started with a simple choice, to help instead of walking away. Victoria smiled and whispered into a quiet room, "Thank you, Marcus, for saving my life, and for reminding the world what really matters.